He offered the world hope through his voice, his presence, and his timeless wisdom. From the prison walls of Shawshank to the frozen wilderness of the Penguins, Morgan Freeman has always stood as more than an actor. He became a voice of strength and comfort. As he once said, the surest way to fail is to quit. At one point, he told himself, "Okay, I'm going to do it or die. That's it. I'll starve to death if necessary." But just moments ago, heartbreaking news was confirmed about Morgan Freeman, and it is forcing fans everywhere to see him in a different light. Tonight, we look beyond the legend to the man himself, the voice of a generation. Let me tell you about a voice. Not just this voice, but the one inside, the voice that whispers. Few actors have defined a generation the way Morgan Freeman has. For more than 6 decades, he has embodied wisdom, resilience, and dignity. His presence on screen has never been simply performance. It has always been something larger. A kind of storytelling that transcends the screen and lingers in the hearts of audiences worldwide. Yet Freeman's path to becoming the voice of a generation was anything but simple. Born in Memphis in 1937 and raised in Mississippi, he discovered acting as a boy. But before Hollywood, there was the military. He joined the United States Air Force as a radar technician. Still, the pull of performance was irresistible. In 1959, he left the uniform behind and returned to the stage where his true journey would begin. Audiences first noticed his talent on television. In the 1970s, he became a familiar face on The Electric Company, a children's program where he appeared in countless sketches. For many actors, that would have been the pinnacle. For Freeman, it was just the beginning. His real breakthrough came much later, in 1987, at the age of 50, when most Hollywood careers are already fading. That year, he stunned audiences as Fast, Black, and Street Smart. His performance as the volatile pimp earned him an Academy Award nomination and left critics awestruck. Overnight, Freeman was no longer a character actor. He was a force. And in an industry obsessed with youth, he proved that greatness has no expiration date. The years that followed cemented his place in history. In 1989, he starred in Driving Miss Daisy, portraying chauffeur Hulk Hoburn with warmth and dignity, a performance that earned him both a Golden Globe and another Oscar nomination. That same year, he appeared in Glory, honoring the sacrifices of black soldiers in the Civil War, and in Lean on Me as tough love principal Joe Clark, inspiring not just characters but entire audiences. Then came the role that made him immortal. In 1994, Freeman starred in The Shawshank Redemption. As Ellis Red Redding, he gave both a performance and a narration that transformed the film into one of the most beloved of all time. His calm, measured voice carried audiences through despair, hope, and redemption. Today, it is nearly impossible to imagine Shawshank without his voice guiding the story. A decade later, he would win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in Million Dollar Baby, playing Eddie Scrap Iron Dupree, the wise mentor at the film's heart. And in 2009, he delivered a deeply moving portrayal of Nelson Mandela in Invictus, earning yet another Oscar nomination. I didn't pick this one. This one picked us. It just dropped into our lap. It was a perfect venue, a perfect story to depict Mandela, Freeman said, reminding the world that his gift was not just acting, but embodying the spirit of greatness. Hollywood showered him with honors, the Kennedy Center Honors in 2008, the AFI Life Achievement Award in 2011, the Cecil B. DeMille Award in 2012, and the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award in 2018. These accolades recognized not just his career, but his enduring influence on the art of storytelling. What makes his story remarkable, however, is not simply the awards or roles, it is the trust audiences place in him. Whether as an inmate offering hope, a president leading through crisis, or a narrator explaining the cosmos, Morgan Freeman became more than an actor. He became a voice people believed in, a guide through the complexities of life. This is the legend the world came to know, a man whose voice gave hope, whose presence brought comfort, and whose talent defined generations. Yet even as his career soared to heights few could dream of, life tested him in ways audiences never saw. Behind the legend, behind the voice that moved millions, Morgan Freeman has endured struggles few truly understand. The man who always seemed larger than life carried a private burden that began with one terrifying night. In August 2008, tragedy struck. Near his home in Charleston, Mississippi, Freeman was involved in a devastating car accident. His vehicle veered off the road, flipped several times, and landed in a ditch. Rescuers had to use the jaws of life to pull him from the wreckage before he was airlifted to Memphis for emergency surgery. The award-winning actor, who had seemed untouchable on screen, was suddenly revealed as human, fragile, and vulnerable. He was airlifted to a Memphis hospital, where doctors discovered the severity of his injuries: a broken arm, a broken elbow, and major damage to his shoulder. The surgery that followed lasted nearly 4 hours as surgeons carefully repaired nerve damage and stabilized the fractures. He survived, but his life would never be the same. The accident left consequences that even the best medical care could not erase. Although Freeman recovered enough to return to acting, his left hand was permanently paralyzed. From then on, he wore a compression glove for the rest of his life to improve circulation and manage swelling. In public, fans often noticed the glove, but Freeman rarely spoke about it. He preferred to keep the attention on his work rather than his pain. Still, the truth was undeniable. He had lost the use of his hand. Reflecting on his career, he said, "No, I was always trying to be a movie actor. This is not serendipity. In terms of being here, this is the fight I've been fighting all my life." The injury remained a constant reminder of the crash that nearly ended his career. But the story did not stop with paralysis. Alongside his damaged arm, Freeman developed persistent pain in his muscles and soft tissues across his body. To the world, he remained the calm, commanding presence, with the same voice that brought life to the Shawshank Redemption and March of the Penguins. What the public did not see was the man enduring quiet struggles, battling pain every day, and working through limitations with a resilience few realized he possessed. Still, he refused to let pain define him. Even after the accident, Freeman accepted demanding roles. He performed in thrillers, action films, and dramas, never once using his injuries as an excuse. On screen, he remained the Morgan Freeman audiences admired. Off-screen, he proved something even greater, that true strength is not the absence of pain, but the courage to move forward in spite of it. Even as he smiled on red carpets and delivered award-winning performances, he carried suffering the audience never saw. The heartbreaking truth was clear. The man, celebrated for his strength and composure, had been fighting a battle with his own body for more than a decade. And yet, in classic Freeman fashion, he rarely asked for sympathy. Instead, he chose perseverance, showing that his quiet resilience was as inspiring as any role he had ever played. But as hard as those private struggles were, they were only part of his story. Beyond the physical pain, Morgan Freeman faced something far more devastating: a loss no surgery, no medicine, and no therapy could ever heal. A family tragedy. Pain is not always physical. While the scars from his accident were visible, the next heartbreak he endured cut deeper than any wound to the body. In 1982, a little girl was born who would become central to Freeman's life, Edina Hines. Though not his biological granddaughter, she was the granddaughter of his first wife, Jeanette Adair Bradshaw. To Morgan Freeman, she was family in every way that mattered. Edina often accompanied Freeman on the red carpet. She once told Inside Edition how stylish he always looked, calling him a fashionable guy who doesn't have to worry about it. He had raised her, mentored her, and loved her as if she were his own daughter. Bright and ambitious, Edina studied acting at New York University's graduate program and appeared in independent films and stage productions. Those who knew her described her as talented, kind, and full of promise. Freeman often spoke of her with deep pride, supporting her as she built her own career in the arts. Then, on August 16, 2015, tragedy struck. Edina, just 33 years old, was brutally attacked outside her Manhattan apartment. Witnesses described the horrifying scene. Her boyfriend at the time, Lamar Davenport, repeatedly stabbed her in a frenzy. Police arrived to find her with multiple wounds lying in the street. She was rushed to Harlem Hospital, but it was too late. The young woman with so much potential was gone. The attack shocked Freeman's family and made headlines worldwide. His granddaughter had been murdered in one of the most violent and senseless ways imaginable. Davenport was arrested at the scene and later convicted of manslaughter. Yet no trial and no verdict could undo the reality of what Freeman had lost. Reports revealed that Adina had been stabbed 16 times with a hunting knife, in what was described as a deranged act of exorcism. For a man known for dignity and composure, Freeman's public response was deeply moving. In a statement, he wrote, "The world will never know her artistry and talent and how much she had to offer. Her friends and family were fortunate enough to have known what she meant as a person. Her star will continue to shine in our hearts, thoughts, and prayers. May she rest in peace." Rarely did Freeman speak so openly about personal grief, but in those words, the world glimpsed the depth of his love for Adina and the depth of his sorrow. Her death was not just the loss of a young actress, but of a daughter figure, a confidant, and a guiding light in Freeman's life. Those close to him said the tragedy changed him. At public events afterward, he appeared subdued, his usual warmth tempered by grief. Friends noted that he carried himself with the same grace, but there was a sadness in his eyes that spoke of a wound time could never heal. For the millions who admired him, it was the first time they saw Freeman not as the untouchable voice of God, but as a man, a grandfather, a father figure, who had endured devastating loss. It was a reminder that even the greatest among us are not spared from tragedy. Fame does not shield the heart. Talent does not protect against grief. The death of Adina Hines remains one of the most painful chapters of Freeman's life. Yet, even in the midst of sorrow, he chose dignity over despair. He chose to honor her memory with words of love, not anger. Even while carrying heartbreak of his own, he continued to work and to lend his voice to stories of hope. Yet as heavy as this tragedy was, it would not be the only challenge Freeman faced. Beyond grief and the loss of family, another struggle was looming, one that would not only affect his heart, but his health. The loss of his granddaughter left Morgan Freeman grieving in silence. Over time, however, fans began to notice something more. At red carpet events, during interviews, and even on stage, the man once seen as unshakable seemed frailer. His left hand was often hidden in a compression glove, and his movements grew slower. Before long, whispers spread. Was something wrong with Morgan Freeman? For years, rumors swirled online. Tabloids exaggerated his condition. Some even falsely reported his death, sparking panic among fans before being quickly debunked. Social media amplified every photo and appearance, with people remarking on how much older and weaker he seemed. The speculation grew louder, but behind the noise lay a very real truth. Freeman was facing challenges more difficult than most realized. The most significant of these was fibromyalgia, a chronic condition that causes widespread nerve pain. For him, the pain was centered in his left arm, the same arm that was crushed in the 2008 car accident. In a candid interview with Esquire magazine, he admitted, "It's the fibromyalgia, up and down the arm. That's where it gets so bad, excruciating. This condition doesn't just cause pain. It brings fatigue, stiffness, and sudden flare-ups that can turn even simple daily tasks into trials." To make matters worse, his car accident left permanent damage. Surgeons spent 4 hours repairing broken bones and nerve tissue, but Freeman's hand was left paralyzed. He cannot move it freely. The black compression glove he often wears is not a fashion choice. It helps with circulation and reduces swelling. It is a visible reminder of the night that changed his body forever. Living with fibromyalgia means facing uncertainty every day. Some mornings the pain is bearable, on others it is relentless. Activities Freeman once loved, sailing across open waters, piloting planes, even horseback riding, became difficult or impossible. For a man who built his career embodying freedom, strength, and resilience on screen, being restricted by his own body was one of life's cruelest twists. Yet beyond the accident and the chronic pain lies another undeniable truth. Morgan Freeman is aging. Born in 1937, he is now in his late 80s. The signs of time are visible. His once effortless stride is slower. His presence, though still commanding, carries the weight of years. At awards shows and interviews, he sometimes appears subdued, as though burdened by both exhaustion and pain. For fans who grew up with him as the eternal voice of wisdom, seeing him weakened has been heartbreaking. It reminds us that time spares no one, not even legends. The man who once seemed immortal on screen is, like all of us, human, and yet, through it all, Freeman has refused to stop. He continues to work, not out of necessity, but out of love for his craft. In 2017, he starred alongside Michael Caine and Alan Arkin in the comedy Going in Style. In 2019, he took on a major role in the action thriller Angel Has Fallen, delivering demanding scenes despite his limitations. In 2021, he appeared in The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, proving once again that he could still bring energy to blockbuster cinema. But perhaps even more enduring than his acting has been his narration. In recent years, his voice has carried some of the most celebrated documentary projects, Our Universe in 2022 and Life on Our Planet in 2023. His narration remains as powerful as ever, steady, commanding, and unmistakably his. For many fans, hearing that voice is proof that even if his body struggles, his spirit remains unbroken. The heartbreaking truth is not a sudden loss or shocking revelation. It is the quiet recognition that Morgan Freeman is human. He is in pain. He is aging, and he is enduring challenges that will never fully heal. The glove on his hand, the slower pace, the rare public appearances, these are not signs of weakness, but symbols of survival. What makes this reality so painful is not just the reminder of mortality, but the realization that someone who has given the world so much wisdom, comfort, and inspiration must face battles of his own every single day. And yet there is another side to the story. Pain has followed him, but Freeman has refused to let it define him. Instead, he has transformed it into something else, a lesson in resilience. In doing so, he continues to inspire, not only through the characters he has played, but through the strength he displays in his own life. When asked about his response to adversity, Freeman once offered a glimpse into his philosophy. And no, I don't know of any. Any tips except one thing. One thing I can tell you, if you're looking to improve the sound of your voice, yarn a lot. The heartbreaking news about Morgan Freeman is real. He lives each day with constant pain, carrying the weight of age, injury, and loss. Yet what defines him is not the struggle itself, but the way he responds to it. While others might have stepped back from the spotlight, Freeman has chosen to keep moving forward. After the accident, after endless rounds of physical therapy, and after years of living with fibromyalgia, Freeman pressed on. He returned to the screen with an energy that even surprised his closest friends. In 2017, he starred alongside Michael Caine and Alan Arkin in Going in Style, a heist comedy that reminded audiences his humor and charisma were as sharp as ever. 2 years later, he took on a central role in Angel Has Fallen, a high-stakes thriller that demanded stamina and intensity. Even in his 80s, Freeman showed he could command the screen. By 2021, he appeared in The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, bringing his trademark gravitas to a chaotic action comedy. But it is not only his acting that has endured, it is his voice. Unshaken by age or illness, his narration remains steady, reassuring, and unforgettable. In 2022, Our Universe showcased that voice once again, followed by Life on Our Planet in 2023, guiding audiences across history, science, and the mysteries of existence. In a rapidly changing world, Freeman's voice has become a constant, almost a sanctuary. He has never hidden his pain. Freeman has spoken openly about the fibromyalgia that strikes his arm and shoulder, about the paralysis that affects his hand, but he does not dwell on it. Instead, he shares a simple, profound truth. Learning to live with pain is part of living. It is a philosophy rooted in resilience. Pain, he reminds us, is not the end. It is something to be managed, endured, and overcome. He does not seek pity nor sympathy. His choice is to keep creating, keep inspiring, and keep lending his presence to stories that touch audiences everywhere. That choice is what defines his greatness. Fans admire Morgan Freeman not only for his legendary performances, but also for his humanity. He reminds us that true strength does not lie in perfection, but in perseverance. That dignity can exist even in pain, even in grief. The heartbreaking news may reveal his struggles, but his response transforms heartbreak into admiration. He shows us that survival itself can be an act of triumph, and that is why his story matters. Not only because it reveals the fragile humanity of a legend, but because it proves that even heartbreak cannot erase greatness. It can only redefine it, This is why the news matters. The story about Morgan Freeman is not about scandal, sudden loss, or cheap headlines. It is about the reality that even legends carry pain. He has survived the crash that altered his body, endured the illness that tests him daily, and lived through the loss that broke his heart. Yet through it all, he remains. His career has given us unforgettable roles, from the quiet dignity of driving Miss Daisy to the eternal hope of the Shawshank Redemption. His voice has carried us through the mysteries of nature, science, and faith. His wisdom, both on and off screen, continues to teach us what it means to endure. The heartbreaking truth is not only that Morgan Freeman struggles, it is that his struggles reveal his humanity. They remind us that even the greatest are still human, still vulnerable, still mortal. But more importantly, they remind us that Morgan Freeman is not just a star. He is a survivor. And his voice, his presence, and his legacy will remain.